Hello, everybody. So my name's Marie Monaghan, and I'm Regional Support Official with UCU, but also a member of the COVID Safety Pledge Steering Group. And today, we'd like to talk to James Robinson, who's Unison's Branch Secretary at Knowsley Council. Hello, James.
Hello, Marie. You okay?
I'm fine, thank you. So we know that in October of this year, you managed to get your employer to sign up to the Safety COVID Pledge. So you got your employer to commit to protecting all its workers, its customers, its service users across the whole of the Knowsley Council. You've got your employer to agree to assess the physical environment and working practices. And the third thing you've got them to commit to is to agree to Public Health England guidance, which asks them to, when people are positive, to allow them to self-isolate with adequate support. Now that's a pretty big achievement, because we know you're the first council in the Liverpool City region. We know you're the first council in the Northwest. So do you think that that's reflective of how your employees generally dealt with COVID since the beginning of the pandemic?
Yeah, so at the start of the pandemic, like everybody really, it was a massive learning curve for us all, wasn't it? But I would say Knowsley Council, they wanted to work with us from the start, which was good. And they arranged meetings with the joint trade unions, and they moved very quickly to get everybody to work from home who was able to do so. So that happened quite quick. We did have some more difficult conversations, I would say, with head teachers in the borough who didn't quite understand the role of the trade union when it came to risk assessments. So if you remember in the early days of COVID, as we went through, it would almost be like we'd update risk assessments, we'd consult on them. By the time we were put into practice, Boris Johnson was on the telly and changing all the rules again. And then we'd be back out consulting with the heads. So in those initial stages, there was a bit of some barriers, I would say, with head teachers and working with them, but we did overcome them. And I would say Knowsley Council's corporate health and safety team helped us do that and work closely. So as we move through the years, we did have a very close working relationship. So I would say, yeah, how the employers dealt with COVID has been relatively good, but I would say that was because of the very close working relationship they've had with the joint trade unions, in particular Unison.
Right, I think that's good to hear, because we know that the employees, explicit duty to undertake COVID risk assessments ended at the beginning of the year. So obviously this is a good, it's a great achievement what you've managed to do in Knowsley. Now, we know Knowsley has a population of about 155,000, right?
Yep.
And obviously, so which bits does this pledge cover? What, the whole of all your buildings? What is it covering? So people can get a feel for the scale of this achievement.
Yeah, so it covers all of the buildings within Knowsley Council, but also all of the schools as well. So there are 61 schools in Knowsley, and it covers all of them too.
Right. I think when you've explained it that way, it helps us understand the level of achievement here, especially with you being the first council. So what made you think you wanted to go for this? On your long list of jobs to do as a branch secretary, no doubt. What made you want to go for this, James?
Yeah, so we were aware that there was some movement from employers to start treating COVID sickness absence in line with other sickness. And by that, I mean using the sickness absence procedures and triggers if someone's off with COVID-19, to take them through those sanctions and the various stages in the sickness absence policy. So we were aware of other employers doing that. And then during our negotiations, it was clear that Knowsley Council were looking to rewrite their sickness policies to start to include COVID-19. Now, you mentioned there about the pledge and those three parts of the pledge. I would say in terms of the buildings and the risk assessments, we had that pretty much boxed off because of the work that I've just spoken about, the joint work with the trade unions within the risk assessment. The bit that we were more fearful of was the final point around following public health guidance and ensuring that the staff were able to self-isolate, and we felt that the movement to change the sickness absence procedures put that at risk. And we felt the negotiations weren't entirely going all of our way in respect of that. But I am also the vice chair of the Corporate Joint Health and Safety Committee. So I tabled the pledge as an agenda item through that mechanism. And it was through that mechanism we were able to get support from the employer, who obviously take part in the Corporate Health and Safety Committee, and the senior management that sit on there, and the joint trade unions sat around the table. So we almost had in two parallel negotiations ongoing in respect of this. So we had one which was looking at the sickness absence procedures, and then we had another which was part of the Corporate Health and Safety Committee. And it was there for which Unison and myself tabled the pledge that we gained that support and was taken through the mechanisms within the council. We then informed the local politicians via our local joint consultative committee that that's what we were doing, because we thought we would get buy-in and support from the local politicians, and we certainly hope we would get it from the Labour politicians who make part of the joint consultative committee. And in gaining the support from those two angles, the Corporate Health and Safety Committee, the Joint Consultative Committee with the local politicians, we were able then to get the most senior management in the council to sign this pledge off. And in doing that, it meant that the other negotiations, which was about the sickness absence, they then ended, because as a result of the council signing the pledge, it then meant that HR were unable to modify the sickness absence procedures to start treating COVID-19 like any other the minute that pledge was signed. So that really helped us.
Right. So linking the pledge into other negotiations obviously worked for you relating to the sickness absence. Right. So, and obviously I think it was interesting to hear that you were tapping into local politicians and other stakeholders to support your position, especially with the status of your employer being, council. So what tips would you give? What lessons do you think you learned along the way? And what tips would you give other people who wanted to get their employers on board?
So it's the importance of the Corporate Health and Safety Committee and how that can drive, if you can gain support there, how that can drive the agenda throughout your employer. So while we have negotiations with HR in a separate forum, we were able to use the pledge via the safety committee then to take the pledge over and above the negotiations that we have with HR. So I would say to any trade union out there that was looking to get this in their employer, is to cover all angles like we did. So you use your normal negotiations that you have with your HR and management on your terms and conditions, use that, but really you need to tap into the Corporate Health and Safety if you've got one. So if you've got a Corporate Health and Safety Committee, table it as an agenda item on there as well. And then finally, as you picked up, Marie, is then lobbying local politicians. So if it's a local council that you're hoping to get this signed up, it's including them in that. So it's using all three of those areas to gain the support for it.
Okay. So just using your normal trade union routes. And
yeah.
Obviously, as you're obviously showing to us, treating it as a trade, treating safety as a trade union issue and just using your normal internal mechanisms.
Yeah.
Right. So having the pledge, what does this mean in practice? Have you managed to use the pledge with your employer moving forward if you got this in October?
So since October, as I said, the big thing for us was we were quite happy because of our joint working in terms of our buildings and our risk assessments in respect of COVID-19. Obviously, that's under constant review, and so we continue to work with that. But since October, those sickness absence procedures that were modified and redrafted to start including COVID-19 towards sickness absence triggers completely came to an end. So all managers were told that's on hold, and we're not introducing them anymore. So in practice, what it's meant is that we've been able to continue where if a member of staff in Knowsley Council is unfortunate enough to have COVID-19, that for the first 5 days of their sickness absence, that will not count towards the sickness absence procedures. And even after those 5 days, there won't be an immediate start to look at those days as part of their trigger points. Instead, there will be a conversation with the member and their trade union representative around their sickness. So there is no barriers there for anybody who needs to self-isolate as a result of COVID-19. And I think that's important in comparison to other local employers that haven't signed this pledge. And I can honestly say that I don't think if we had signed the pledge, I would have been able to say that. I think we would. I think those sickness procedures would have been implemented. Maybe not in its entirety, but in some way. But it completely put a halt on that. The other thing that it has helped us with is dealing with the issue with long COVID. So we have a number of members who remain off work with COVID, long COVID, or have returned to work and have had to make reasonable adjustments. The signing of the pledge, while it doesn't necessarily make reference to long COVID, it certainly helps us in our support for those members, the fact that the council has signed up to this.
Absolutely, because we'd imagine that the commitment to maintain COVID controls will obviously support members who may be returning with long COVID and concerns about reinfection. Yeah. Right, yeah, I think that's an important point for us to make. Okay, thanks for that, James. So in addition to the safety aspects, what other benefits has it been for your employer? How else were you able to get buy-in from your employer? Yeah,
so like a lot of councils at the moment, Knowsley Council has struggled of late in terms of recruitment and retention, although that's getting better. And one thing that this helps them to do is to say, look, we're a good employer, we are COVID secure, we are signed up to the pledge. And from that, they are able to then hopefully get more people applying for jobs and for vacancies that they've got, knowing that they are going to work for a good employer that is COVID secure.
Okay, great. So I suppose finally, with us in the COVID steering group, what other things do you think that we could be doing to encourage employees to sign up like your employer? What other work do you think we could be doing to assist in branches like yours to get their employees to buy in?
I think promotion is a good thing. I think promoting those employers that have signed up to it will help. So if the steering group were able to do that and then go into other branches and make reference to, for example, Knowsley Council, to say, look, these have done it and these are the benefits they've had, then that's something I think which should help other trade union branches.
Yeah, I think it's about giving credit where it's due and giving Knowsley Council credit for signing up to the pledge that you asked them to. Okay, well, thank you very much, James. We appreciate you explaining that.